In the grand, chaotic tapestry of Coronation Street, where storylines often crescendo with explosive reveals and public showdowns, the most profound revolutions can occur in a whisper. The episode of January 21st offered not a bombastic reunion for Carla Connor and Lisa Swain, but something far more delicate and true to their scared history. A fragile, unguarded moment of honesty, spoken not in daylight, but in the safe, silent dark. For Swarla fans, this was not a conclusion, but the first tentative breath of a new beginning. A masterclass in how soap opera, at its best, mirrors the messy, non-linear path of healing a fractured heart. To appreciate the seismic weight of Carla's whispered, "I love you too," one must first traverse the emotional minefield that led to that quiet confession. The relationship between the formidable factory boss and the steadfast detective was never destined for simplicity. It was, as many of life's most impactful connections are, intricately woven with past traumas and present complications. The return of Lisa's wife, Becky Swain, from the presumed dead, was a narrative stroke of genius that transcended typical soap opera amnesia. This wasn't a mere ex re-entering the picture. It was a resurrection that posed legal, moral, and emotional dilemmas of Shakespearean proportions. Becky's arrival, crashing into the afterglow of Carla and Lisa's engagement, was less a homecoming and more a spectral haunting, a past that refused to remain buried. The ensuing months were a brutal study in coercive manipulation. Becky, a puppeteer of chaos, expertly weaponized shared history and insecurity. For Carla, a woman whose identity is built upon a foundation of control over her business, her bipolar disorder, her hard-won independence, Becky's presence was an existential threat. It represented a loss of agency so profound it drove Carla to uncharacteristically reckless action, breaking into Becky's flat. This decision, born of desperate defiance, culminated in her nightmarish captivity, a period where she was denied vital anti-rejection medication, a metaphor so potent it hardly needs spelling out. Her body, like her heart, was under attack, fighting rejection from a source that sought to consume her. This ordeal served as the tragic, necessary crucible for truth. While Carla fought for survival, Lisa, the professional investigator, was forced to conduct the most painful case of her career, seeing the woman she loved eclipsed by the monster her wife had become. The scales fell from Lisa's eyes not through argument, but through the horrifying evidence of Carla's suffering. Becky's removal from the picture, however, did not gift them a clean slate. It left a battlefield littered with the shrapnel of betrayal, most notably, the devastating revelation of Lisa's intimacy with Becky post-breakup. To Carla, this wasn't a stumble. It was a profound violation, a blurring of lines between her tormentor and her lover that poisoned the well of their shared past. Thus, the stage was set for a standoff not of hatred, but of wounded pride and profound hurt. Carla's refusal to forgive was a fortress constructed from equal parts pain and principle. Tracy Barlow's subsequent meddling, which successfully sabotaged a near reconciliation earlier in the week, highlighted a critical theme. The external world's perception and interference is often the biggest obstacle to private truth. Carla's pride, already brittle, could be shattered by the mere suggestion of public humiliation. This context makes Lisa's gesture in the January 21st episode so beautifully anachronistic and strategic. In an age of digital noise and heated, immediate confrontation, she chose the handwritten love letter. This was a conscious return to intimacy, a tangible artifact of feeling that demanded quiet contemplation rather than instant rebuttal. It was a plea carved in ink, not shouted in anger. Her subsequent wait at the bistro, the wilting bouquet, the slow consumption of wine. This was a visual symphony of vulnerability and fading hope. It painted Lisa not as the confident detective, but as a woman laying her heart on a public table, watching it grow cold. Carla's entrapment in a no-phones meeting was a perfect stroke of dramatic irony. It physically manifested the walls she had built around herself, professional commitments, the expectations of others, the rigid rules that keep chaos at bay. Lisa's decision to storm that fortress, wine-fueled and desperate, was a glorious, messy failure of decorum and a triumphant success of raw emotion. The spilled wine, the shocked clients, the redecorated carpet. These were the casualties of a heart that could no longer be contained by politeness or patience. It was an imperfect act of war for love, and its very imperfection made it real. The true genius of the episode, however, lay in the quiet aftermath. Carla's response to this public spectacle was not embarrassment or fury, but a return to a deeper, more fundamental language, the language of care. Shepherding a drunk Lisa home, ensuring her safety, and allowing her to fall asleep on her lap. These are the acts of a protector, of someone whose love exists in a realm beyond anger. In that silent, private space, with Lisa's conscious defenses lowered in sleep, Carla's own defenses finally dissolved. Her confession, whispered to a sleeping ear, was the purest form of truth-telling. It was spoken not to elicit a response, to win an argument, or to shape a narrative. It was spoken simply because, in that unguarded moment, it was the undeniable reality. It was a gift given freely, with no expectation of receipt. This leaves Swarla, at its most compelling and precarious juncture. The central question: will Carla have the courage to repeat those words to a conscious Lisa? Touches on the core of human vulnerability. The dark provides a blanket for honesty that the daylight often strips away. Carla's entire persona is built on a facade of steely resilience. To openly reconcile requires her to dismantle that facade, to admit need, to forgive a betrayal that is intertwined with her deepest trauma. It requires separating Lisa from the shadow of Becky, a psychological task of Herculean proportion. For Lisa, the path forward is one of patient, unwavering proof. Her grand, chaotic gesture demonstrated the depth of her feeling, but rebuilding trust is a silent, daily labor. She must become a safe harbor, consistently proving that her love is a shelter, not another storm. The journey of Carla and Lisa is more than a beloved ship. It is Coronation Street engaging in a nuanced, adult exploration of love after trauma. It acknowledges that love is not a magic eraser for pain, but often the very context in which our deepest wounds are felt and potentially healed. Their story validates that reconciliation is not about forgetting the past, but about choosing a future together in full acknowledgement of its scars. As viewers, we are left holding our breath, clinging to the echo of a whisper in the dark, a fragile, beautiful sound that holds the promise of a dawn where two wounded hearts might finally find the courage to speak and to love in the light.